Ambassador, what do you think Putin is thinking right now? That the clock is ticking towards Friday. Chess moves are being made over there militarily. But what is going through Putin's mind right now?
Yeah, well, it's good to be with you, Rob. I think, it's impossible to get in the mind of Vladimir Putin because it's sick and twisted and probably not logical. But, I'm guessing that he doesn't want to take on the most powerful military in the world, which is the United States of America. And he knows that his only source of income right now in a major way is his oil and gas exports. And if the United States of America, according to President Trump, sanctions those, puts significant impacting tariffs on his exports of oil and gas to India and Russia and China and Brazil, I think that's a significant move. And that could really undercut his ability to fund this war. Remember, he's paying the equivalent of about $100,000 a year to new soldiers that are signing up. And so it's unsustainable anyway, but I think him lashing out against civilians in Ukraine shows just how weak his hand is right now.
Obviously, President Trump lost patience with Putin. It went from 50 days to, a lot less than that. And as I said, Friday is the deadline at this point. Steve Witkoff, the special envoy, I don't know if he's there yet in Russia, but if not, he's on his way. What do you think Witkoff is able to pull off, if anything, right now with Putin?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know Steve. He's a very talented diplomat. Obviously, he's going there very soon, if he's not already there, to deliver an ultimatum. And that ultimatum is going to be that, get a ceasefire in place. The time is now. Stop the killing. That's what President Trump really wants, is an end to the killing. 1,000 soldiers almost every single day are dying on the battlefield. And then you have these civilian casualties that we're hearing about overnight, every single night, it seems like. And, President Trump wants peace. He's a peacemaker. He ended the Cambodia-Thailand conflict. He ended the India-Pakistan conflict. He ended the 12-day war between Iran and Israel. And so, President Trump is averaging about a peace deal a month right now. And I think ultimately he'd like this to end. But both sides need to agree to a ceasefire and then an enduring peace. But I think based on what's happening on the battlefield, there's not going to be a winner in this war. At the end of the day, diplomacy is the only way that this war is going to come to an end, and President Trump knows that, and I think he's trying to create the conditions to make that happen.
So what role can you play as the ambassador to NATO with your counterparts, not only within the NATO countries, but also, obviously, with Russia? I mean, diplomatically, you're always talking, but what's your role in this, too?
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, President Trump asked me to coordinate the sale of American armaments and weapons to our NATO allies and to provide those weapons then to Ukraine through our NATO allies. We're going to accomplish some big things in the coming weeks. I was just in Poland working on this issue with the folks that are actually moving items into and out of the conflict zone. And so I think, we are, expecting that these important, sophisticated, top-notch, top-of-the-line weapons that we're going to sell to our European allies and will be used on the front lines in the Ukraine war will be a difference maker. But at the end of the day, again, we need to stop the killing. That's the most important thing. Is
China really the only country that Putin might listen to at this point because of his need, to be connected to them economically? Who else would have some sway?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Vladimir Putin thinks he has all the sway that he needs, but he is becoming quickly subservient to China. They buy a lot of his oil. They provide dual-use technologies that are employed in his drone manufacturing base and other weapons. And so, China certainly is facilitating this war and is allowing it to continue. And if China decided that they wanted to be for peace and they wanted to stop the killing, I think this war would come to an end pretty quickly. But at the end of the day, the two parties that are in the conflict, Ukraine and Russia, need to come to a ceasefire as soon as possible to make sure that people quit dying every single day.